Welcome back, Randy. Good to see you, buddy.
Glad to be back. A lot of good Auburn talk to talk about to come back to, Brett.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, man. A lot going on, and glad you're back with us here on this Thursday morning. And you're right, tons to talk about. Getting started a little bit earlier this morning, and we're going to dive into a bunch. Obviously, Auburn finalizing their 25 class. Some of you may be in recruiting slumber and going, what are they talking about? I thought this was over. If you'll remember, we used to have a big day called National Recruiting Signing Day in February, which is no longer the case anymore. It's the second day of the recruiting signing period that, I guess you clean up some, maybe pick up one or two or whatever. And Auburn did pick up one that was very, very important to this class. And we're going to talk about him here in just a second and hear what Coach Freeze had to say about adding Omar Mabson from Auburn High School to this class. You and I, Randy, have seen him over the last several years and talked to a lot of people that have, followed him at Auburn High School. And, our eyes kind of tell us to tell. I don't really need somebody to tell me what kind of player he is. So we're going to talk about him, maybe some stats, get everybody, caught up on where Auburn ended up in the rankings, multiple recruiting services. And, Randy, I looked at this last night after I got home from the area championship game at Benjamin Russell, by the way, which Benjamin Russell won its fourth area championship. And Cedarian Morgan, a target for Auburn, highly touted, re-ranked, and increased to a 5-star, which we'll talk more about that too, along with Caleb Spivey, who was just recently announced as a 4-star, who is currently about to go into his junior season at Benjamin Russell. So coming home from that, thinking about this recruiting class, thinking about you and I being on the show yesterday at lunch and talking about how big a day this used to be and how much college football has changed and how this is kind of an afterthought now, but how important we may look back on this day a few years from now and say it was picking up one guy in Omar Mabson. I mean, I don't want to diminish the importance of this day when you pick up a key piece. And, he's not one of the higher rated recruits in this class, Randy, for Auburn, but he's an important piece of this class. And I'll elaborate some more on that, but just kind of your initial thoughts on picking up Omar Mabson.
Well, he's a reclassified recruit. So when you bring that in, it's like Ryan Williams last year out of Saraland. Some guys can come back for a senior year of high school and really need it to enhance their stock when it comes to recruiting. And then there's others like Omar Mabson. You watch him, and he's got 1,400 yards rushing last year. He caught the ball well out of the backfield. He's coached by one of the best high school coaches in the state and in the country, and Keith Etheridge. And when you add all of those things together, Brett, I think he's prepared. And, Ryan Williams, the same with him. Cam Coleman, very young as well, coming out of Phoenix City. But all three of them coming out of programs where I feel like from a weight room standpoint, from a development standpoint, from a 7-on-7, from a skill position standpoint, all three of those guys are going to be ready to play. And I'll start there, Brett. It may not have been as big a day for the football side, but as I watched in on Omar's signing yesterday, tuning into that, I think there was 25 other kids at Auburn High School that signed scholarships. So outside of football, Brett, yesterday's still a massive day for the rest of the state when it comes to other sports.
Right.
We've gotten so caught up now in thinking that kids are showing up on campus in January. So they sign early, they finish out their high school football season. As a senior, they end up on campus now. I think all but maybe 2 or 3 for Auburn and Alabama did that this year.
That's
That's so much different than even 10, 15 years ago, where you would have a Cedarian Morgan. And you mentioned Benjamin Russell's area championship and it being their 4th. Well, Cedarian's our best basketball player, too. And he could be a big-time basketball recruit if he wasn't one of the top football recruits in the country. He's 6'5". He's a good 200, 210 pounds. He's a high flyer, but he plays guard. I mean, he could be a point guard at the next level if developed up to do that. But this is his junior year, but it's his last year to play basketball. I had somebody ask me at work a couple of weeks ago. They said, "Is Darian a senior, or am I missing something?" I said, "No, he's a junior, but he's going out with senior night for the
Right.
basketball team because whoever he signs with next December, he's going on ahead and enrolling, whether it be December or January next year. So
Right.
Darren won't be around to play his senior year of basketball, and that's disappointing when you grow up with classes. I don't necessarily like it because you know me, I love kids that play multiple sports. I think it helps you in everything. Darian's a great track and field athlete too, so you'll miss out having him in his best year, his senior year. But Brett, it's a new day and age, my friend. But I did want to just mention that it was a massive day for those outside of football to end up on stages all throughout the state of Alabama and sign those scholarship offers. And we've got so many great athletes that are not only football scholarship people, but we've got them going all over the country here in this state. And you and I enjoy covering that. First off, you travel this state more than anybody in the state. Nobody travels the state of Alabama and meets more coaches and knows more about high school athletics than Brett Pritchard, period. He does it as well as anybody. And we hope that you tune into our On the Road with the AHSA program that will be on WOTM starting. There's some other outlets that we're hoping to add that to on a statewide level. But you can tune it in on all of our social media outlets. Brett was at Hoover High School last week, caught up with the girls and boys basketball team, who's both going for what will this be, the fourth straight state championship or the fifth for the girls
Well,
program?
it'll be 5 for girls and 4 for the boys.
It's an amazing run. Two of the best high school programs. Look at Renaya Kelly over at. Have you noticed what she's done
Oh
over at
yeah,
North Carolina?
absolutely.
I retweeted a tweet out of North Carolina where she had 16 points and like 8 assists
Not
this past
surprised.
week. She's one of the best high school players you and I've had the good pleasure of covering out there. But Brett, my point is that it was a massive day, and it was a massive day for Auburn University too, as we picked up in a number of sports a lot of key recruits that hopefully continues to take this thing to the levels that we want it to go to in all sports.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought attention to that because it is a big day for, both girls and boys in the state signing and moving on to play college. I know football dominates the talk when it comes to recruiting, and especially back in the day when this was the premier day. And the positive thing on that is maybe this allows other sports to shine in February, whereas in the past it was just kind of smothered by football. But you're right. I think you look at guys that come in, and we'll stay with Sedarian for just a second. Yeah, you got to make a decision what's best for you now and moving on and getting enrolled early for a lot of these high-ranked recruits and getting them on campus so they can go through a spring and a workout period. It's no different with Omar Matson. I know he reclassified, but let's talk about it. I mean, the benefits of him staying one more year at Auburn High School versus going ahead, and if you've already got your schoolwork completed and you can graduate early and you can reclassify and go ahead and know that I don't think Omar Matson's expecting to play a ton this year, mentality wise. I think he says, I want to get in that program and I want to work on some things that are going to make me a running back that's going to be really competitive in this league for the next 3 or 4 years. And so to do that, he's going to get a jump start. And I'm not saying he's not going to play, because I think he will play some this year. Because if you look at this running back room for Auburn, you lose a guy that toted the ball 500 plus times, and the next closest guy, the running back room to Jarquez Hunter, was Damari Alston. He carried it a little over 100 times. So, I mean, you look at it from a standpoint of, it was a vast difference between number one guy and then Damari Alston and then Jeremiah Cobb and on down the list. So we're going to have a battle coming into the spring between Jeremiah Cobb and Damari Alston. And I stood with Coach Johnson last night and Malcolm Simmons at the game. And, I talked to Malcolm for a while and I said, who do you think it's going to be in the running back room? And he said, man, obviously they're two different style running backs, but it's going to be more of a platoon effort this year. And I think you're going to know that going in. Neither one of these guys are built like Jarquez Hunter, but I think both are really good running backs. And of course, Kurt Johnson coached Jeremiah Cobb, and he sat down and talked to Coach Freeze one-on-one, back in the day recruiting Jeremiah and the high ceiling for him. And Jeremiah Cobb, what a lot of people don't realize, is extremely fast. He's one of the faster kids on the team. And so I know in the SEC, Randy, you gotta be a tough physical back. You can't just be fast. So I know the question mark for him is, can he be physical enough to run the football when we need him to run in short yardage situations? Well, Damari Alston's proved he can. He's a physical running back, not quite as big as Jarquez, but he's a physical running back. But now you add an Omar Mapson in here, and I don't want to relegate him to a short yardage back right out of the gate, but you could use him as big as he is and as physical as he is. And I know he's the younger of all the guys, but man, he get in that weight room and work, for the next several months and continue to get stronger. He could be a viable option in short yardage.
Well, I want to compliment a couple of high schools here in the state of Alabama, and 3 of them that we've already mentioned, but I'm going to mention them again. First, I'm going to talk about academics. There are some high schools here in this state that just do a tremendous job academically. And you and I are products of Benjamin Russell High School. So I'm going to tout what you get in the public school system at Benjamin Russell if you choose to go and do the right thing. And I know Cedarian, I know his parents, I know his folks. He's done the right thing. So he's going to be prepared from an academic standpoint to go on to the college ranks right after December next year. And there's no doubt in my mind he's going to be successful at it. Now, Unfortunately, there are some schools here in this state where if you get a kid from there, I'm going, how is he going to pan out? But we no longer hear about academic concerns, so I don't know if that's that big a deal. But Auburn High School is one of those too. If you're going to come out of a school that's got Auburn right here in the back door, Omar Mapson's coming out one of the best public schools in the state of Alabama and in the country in Auburn High School. He's ready. I truly believe that. And there's also a big benefit to coming out some of these weight programs with these great coaches that you see here in the state. And Auburn High School and Keith Etheridge, Brett, you've interviewed Keith Etheridge 20 times over the years. First time you interviewed him, you came back and you said, man, I love that guy. Leeds High School, winning 4 or 5 state championships that he won there. He's a down-to-earth, good guy. He's one that you want coaching your kids. If you've got somebody to choose to coach them, I would choose Keith Etheridge. I'd choose Kirk Johnson. I'd choose. There's a handful of coaches out there that I just think are head and shoulders above a lot of the rest that are out there doing it. And Keith Etheridge is one of them. He's prepared weight room wise. Omar Mapson to me looks like Trey Mason. He's got the same build, a very physical, strong build. Does he have the speed of Trey Mason? I haven't watched him enough to have an opinion on that. But when I'm trying to compare and contrast the size of the kid that you're getting into the program, that's who I would compare him to. He is going to be a big, strong physical back for Auburn. And he's a hometown kid, Brett. We have let way too many great athletes leave East Central Alabama and head off to programs like Alabama over the years. We lost Reuben Foster after we had him committed. We lost Rashawn Evans when it looked like we had him. I can keep going down the list of Phoenix City products that we've had leave out of the state and end up, whether it be at Clemson or Alabama or other places. And Auburn's got to shore those boundaries. And tip your hat to Hugh Freeze. You go out there and you get a kid from Auburn High School to commit. You would think that would be easy. It's not easy.
No, it's not.
A lot of local kids want to. A kid that's local to commit to a massive deal, and glad that we're getting Omar Mapson.
Yeah, I want to, I know you've been around Derek Nix a good bit, and, one of the things that Derek Nix did with him is make him a priority. And I think you've spoken very highly of Coach Nix. I haven't been around him like you have, and I think that's key in building that relationship and saying, look, you are a priority for us here at Auburn. Omar Mapson's a 3-star guy, and it's easy nowadays to get caught up in just looking at star rankings and wanting to load your recruiting class down with 5 and 4 stars, which you want to do it because that gives you the highest ranking. But you got guys that are probably right there on the cusp of a 4-star that maybe just haven't quite, if he'd have played another year of high school, I think he would have been bumped up to a 4-star. There's no question about it.
Totally agree.
But
For sure.
you're looking
Yes.
at a guy that's cutting his career short in high school to go ahead and get in up to a program. So Derek Nix, and I think obviously Coach Freeze made him a priority, and that's what you've got to start doing. You and I talked about this the other day, and I think it was yesterday, as a matter of fact. I would put East Central Alabama up against anywhere in the state right now per capita on quality recruits year in and year out. When you look at Birmingham and Mobile, they've kind of always been the hotbed of recruiting. And we've said, look, you got to go into those two areas and win. And you got to win guys out of those areas. And in Mobile, you're competing with, LSU, and you're competing with Florida. You're not only competing with Alabama, but everybody kind of goes into Mobile. Auburn's done a really good job of going into Mobile. They obviously have made Birmingham a priority because they've gone in to Thompson High School the last couple of years and just pulled whoever they wanted, which is awesome, which is massive. And now over here in East Central Alabama with Phoenix City and Auburn and Opelika and Benjamin Russell and Eufaula and those schools like that, I can keep going. I can go on down a little bit and talk about Enterprise too. I mean, Auburn's going out and making these schools a priority, whereas previous coaching staffs weren't doing that. That's why you saw them leave. That's why you saw a legacy Rashawn Evans go across the state and play for the arch rival, is because Auburn wasn't getting it done in their backyard. They're getting it done in their backyard now. You don't have to go all over the country to find quality players when you got as many as you have in the back door here at Auburn. And again, yesterday is nowhere near the day it used to be national wise as far as football. But I think you'll look back, and I started this conversation this way, and you look back in this lone guy that Auburn got to finalize its 25 class may be one of the most impactful guys in this class by the time it's all said and done.
Well, I don't know him all that well personally, but we have had the good fortune of our daughters being in the same grade. And I'll say this about Derek Nix. He has engaged the Auburn community, Brett. And you know the difference between coaches that get involved in the community and others that are, always working. They're never out in the public. They're never watching their kids compete. They're kind of embraced in what they're doing from a coaching standpoint. That's not Coach Nix, man. That is a wonderful family. I watch it from afar. Like I said, we are not some big buds or chums, but I'll see him tonight, I can assure you, at a girls' basketball game here in Auburn, and he'll be right there engaged. And his wife's teaching in the system here in Auburn. Tremendous teacher. I've heard that down the line also. So they've embraced Auburn, and they've got some wonderful athletes coming up. Trust me, he's got a daughter that is a no-brainer athlete. Of course, Brett. We've got a few over in Elliott City that we say, would you please produce a few more with this last name? You and I went down that last. Every community has those last names that you want to produce a few more of those, and your teams, are going to be really, really good. And but I am very impressed with Coach Nix, and I know where he comes from in high school ranks. I mean, you and I know he comes from a football crazed community when we were growing up in Etowah. That place was winning championships and producing athletes and talent really like no other during that stretch. If you think back, you had Freddie Kitchens, you had Pat Nix coming out of that area.
Yeah.
You had Carnell Williams coming out of that area. You had Derek Nix heading over to Southern Miss and being one of the top running backs in that program's history. I mean, they were producing top tier talent. Not that they're not anymore, but it's back then, if you played Etowah and anything, buddy, you knew you were about to get it in baseball or whatever you matched up with them on. And so he knows that. He knows that area well. I'm glad that we're holding on. Hey, I think a huge part of this is we're not out there replacing coordinators again constantly. If you are constantly replacing coordinators, either the culture of your system's not really good or you're just terrible at picking them. Because if you're having to every year, unless you're having tremendous success, now if Derek Nix got the Ole Miss job with Lane Kiffin moving on or something, I'm saying that if something like that happened because we went 10-2,
that's different.
That's different. And that happened to Nick Saban an awful lot, but it was success hires that were getting his coordinators. That hadn't been the problem with Auburn.
Oh, no.
Our problem is that we don't feel like that's working out, and a lot of times that's the scapegoat. And but I'm hopeful that this year, when we've got key guys coming back on the coaching staff, that's going to have a little continuity that'll carry over to the field.
All right, let's look at where Auburn finished in the 25 rankings for both 24/7 and on three. Auburn finishes 7th in 24/7. They finished 8th and on three. I'll say this about this class, though. I think Auburn met tremendous needs in this class. Look, we can get caught up in who's 1 and who's 3 and wherever, but this class is a borderline top 5 class. Michigan jumps them because they add that, top ranked quarterback in the class. There's a couple players, maybe the difference in Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State, and Auburn right now, because there's only about 10 points difference total in those 4 classes. And that's separating Auburn from the 4th place class to the 7th place class. I'm just using this as an example. I don't think that necessarily matters when you look at what Auburn got and what they needed to get in this class. And we can talk about it before you get off, Randy. But, if you look down through here, you mentioned early enrollees, 21 early enrollees for Auburn in this class. That's important. But if you want to look at who Auburn got, Deuce Knight got upgraded to a 5-star. Malik Autry is a 5-star. Jared Smith, by one recruiting service, is a 5-star, a high 4-star by another. Anquan Fagans, Randy, I don't need anybody to rank him. I watched him. And that's a guy you got to get in this state. That guy's a dog. He knows how to play the game. He's got a nose for the football. I'm going somewhere with this, and I'll kick it to you. Jordan Crawford, 4-star. Are you kidding me? If he's not a 5-star in every ranking system, there's a problem. I don't know that I've seen a more dominant defensive lineman in high school than what we saw in Jordan Crawford this year at Parker High School. He's got a teammate over there, obviously, that we're going to talk about in Cleveland, and Auburn's going to hope to get him down the line. And I've got a couple more that I want to talk about. Antonio Coleman and Eric Winters. Those are a couple more guys that you look at and you go, Auburn went out and got players they needed, and that got players that anybody else I just named ahead of them would take in 2 seconds. And when you start getting guys like that, you're starting to get your roster back to where you can compete at this level in this league. If you're competing at the highest level in the SEC, you're competing at the highest level in the country.
I think we got plenty. I think the key position if we can't develop Deuce Knight, I give up. My eyes tell me that you've got to try not to develop him. And
No
we
doubt.
have not been good at Auburn University in developing high school quarterbacks. Name me the last one that we got them to their ceiling. And you can't say Bo Nix because he got his ceiling over at Oregon. He was good at Auburn. He was great at Oregon. To me, that's an issue with Auburn. Should have never allowed him to get out of here. It was poor administrative leadership and poor coaching deals that ends up getting a legacy out of here. And don't get me started on that. Deuce Knight is a wonderful talent with all the skill set that you could ever ask for. And the reason I keep bringing him up, Brett, is the rest of the pieces will fall in place. We got plenty around him, but you have got to get that quarterback position.
That's been the X factor for us, man.
It's been the problem. You've got to have somebody that you can lean on for multiple years. You can't just go out there and try to piecemeal one together and not have it work out. I mean, it would be glorious. Like, I'm hopeful that Jackson Arnold is the guy. But if we head into the season and Deuce Knight beats him out, so be it. I'll be 1,000,000% for it. I can tell you one thing: I'll feel a lot better about our future if Deuce Knight comes in here and shakes things up, and we don't go this transfer portal and this piecemeal portal with a quarterback out there. If he comes in and wins this thing, and I hope he gets an opportunity to do that, Brett, with his skill set, I'll feel a lot better about where we're going over the next 3 years, because that guy you can count on. If he wins that job in year 1, you can count on him being here for 3 years.
Well, Faith and I talked about it yesterday, and we were going to talk about it a lot today on the show. I mean, let's just be honest. This class is great. It's as good as anybody's in the country. And when I look down, like Justin said, Woodby is a 5-star on ESPN, and there's more to that story because of what Auburn's building at St. Francis Academy in Maryland. This pipeline he's pushing. I mean, I'm telling you, again, Auburn's making good inroads around this country, and they've got some connections, and they're in on some of the best. I mean, Zion Ely, who was a teammate of Blake Woodby, number one, obviously, player on the defensive side of the ball in this year's class coming up. He's already scheduled an official visit. He came in a couple of weeks ago in the junior day, in that huge junior day when Auburn played Tennessee in basketball, Randy. But all of this boils down to one position: is that quarterback position. Auburn's got a brand new quarterback room, so none of these guys have taken a snap for Auburn. So we can talk about all this and the pressure. And what I was going to talk about today is Jackson Arnold's got a lot to prove, and Hugh Freeze has got a ton to prove to everybody. He's already proved he can go out and his staff can go get the best players in the country. And they can do it when they're on the down. They're down here because all those teams I just reeled off, Texas, Alabama had a little bit of a down year this year, but still won 9 games. Oregon, who was unanimous number 1 almost all year till they got their doors blown off by Ohio State. That's another one I mentioned. And Michigan just won a national championship 2 years ago, and they got better at the end of the year. Then you've got Auburn. Who's the outlier in that whole group? Auburn is, from a result standpoint. But Auburn's recruiting like a team that's in the playoffs every year. The only problem is they're not making the playoffs. But it's because we cannot figure out the quarterback position. If Auburn could get the quarterback position figured out with the pieces they're putting around whoever it is, Randy, the sky's the limit, man. I mean, 10 wins Auburn could have had 10 wins this year. I know it's a woulda, coulda, shoulda, but nobody just lined up and whipped Auburn. Go look at the scores. They blew the Oklahoma game. They blew the Missouri game. They blew the Cal game. They didn't play worth the crap against Vanderbilt. I mean, I just keep going. Alabama won 28-14. It's all because Jalen Milroe ran the ball 3 times and scored 3 touchdowns. Auburn was in the Georgia game in the third quarter on the road. Nobody lined up and whipped Auburn. Auburn was its own worst enemy because, once again, you've said it a million times, no identity, can't figure out what you're going to do, ride a guy that everybody kind of was sketchy about, and Peyton Thorne, and it didn't work out 3 games into the year, and we were playing quarterback carousel from that point on. So if Auburn can get this daggum quarterback position figured out, whether it be Jackson Arnold, Deuce Knight, Ashton Daniels, I don't care who it is. They're putting the pieces around them, but now it's time for the rubber to hit the road. Auburn's got to prove it can win games. And all of these recruits, Auburn's off to a great start in the 26 class, Randy. But at some point in time, all these guys are going to go, man, it's great. I love it down there. It's a great family atmosphere, but damn, they can't win when the chips are on the table. And I want to go where I can go play and go win a championship. If they can do that this year, Randy, and win 8, 9 football games and have themselves at a position where they're knocking on the door of the playoffs or maybe even overachieve a little bit and make it to the playoffs, I think this whole program will be off and running.
Well, my final comment, and I hate to repeat myself, but I'm going to repeat myself. If Jackson Arnold wins this quarterback position, so be it. Glad we got him. Glad we were able to go out there and get someone that a lot of teams in this country wanted just a short few months ago that thought he was one of the best high school quarterbacks in the country to come out. So I'm all for it. But here's what I'd like to see. Auburn go get a Deuce Knight, and we got him. Develop him. Give him an opportunity to play. Play him early. Don't care if he plays game 1. Other teams do it. Wouldn't be the first time that's happened out there.
I mean, Alabama's staring at starting Keelan Russell in the face, man.
If Deuce Knight's not one of the top recruits that we've ever had committed with my eyes, then my eyes don't know the story. Because what I saw in the All-Star game and everything that I've seen And with his size,
he's
and
one of the
just
highest ranked quarterbacks we've ever recruited.
To watch him walk around amongst other great athletes. I remember the first Alabama Mississippi All-Star game you and I broadcasted together. We went down to Mobile, and the athletes started walking through. We had a dinner the night before, and I said, Brett, I've been around a lot of great athletes, but this isn't normal. I mean, when Trey Kirkpatrick walked through, and he was a legit 6'3", 6'4", and I knew he was going to start at corner the next day for us. In that game, A.J. McCarron walked through, and he's a legit 6'4", 6'5", and I can keep going down the list of just DJ Flukers with the hands and feet on that. I remember being blown away, and I grew up in Elliott City, where we have put some tremendous athletes. It's not like I didn't have the good fortune of being around great athletes growing up.
Right.
But these premier athletes, they look different, Brett. And, to say that they look different and then develop them, because Deuce Knight to me looks different. He's got all of the skill set that you can want. Faith, glad to have you in. But I'm hopeful that we go get a high school guy. And that guy is developed and played early. So we don't lose him, Brett. Because you said it last week, man. Let's say this is a close battle. I'm going to close battle with a high school guy that we went and got that's not already bouncing around.
Right.
I mean, Jackson Arnold just decided, I'm all for it, but he just decided to leave Oklahoma to come to Auburn. Maybe that works out for us. And it happens in some other, but there's a reason. It's not like Oklahoma, who's one of the best football programs in the country, let him just walk out the back door thinking that they just lost the next, you name it, Heisman Trophy.
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield, keep going down the list of the great quarterbacks that Oklahoma's had over the years. So I'm cheering for Deuce Knight. We'll see where it lands, but I'm about to step off here in Auburn. Getting close, Brett. We don't have it all the way done, but I do hope that we open the doors next Monday at our new office here in Auburn. It's on Opelika Road, right up from the mall. Currently, there's a ABS sign up, but we'll have new Lee Marketing Group sign source and Lee Apparel signs that will be popping up. With sign source, we can start with the design for you on a vehicle wrap or any kind of signage need that you have. We can install that sign. So from start to finish, sign source can work with you on any signage project that you need. And then Lee Apparel does custom screen printing and embroidery, athletic uniforms, promotional products, can handle from start to finish there as well. 256-825-0197. Faith, have at it. Keep Brett Pritchard smiling, and I'll be tuning in, okay?
Have a good one.
All right.
See you, buddy. Welcome in, Faith.
Hey.
Everything going well this morning for you?
Do what?
Everything going well this morning?
Yeah, so far so good.
Back in the AU now?
Back in the AU. It was
you spent an extended amount of time in Oxford. I was getting worried that you were starting to turn into a rebel over there. So
I could never.
I've got
to keep Reese on his toes and keep him bothered with all of my
keep him grounded. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
I think you did a good job of that over the weekend.
Hey, I think so too.
It was a good weekend for you, wasn't it?
No kidding.
So, hey, obviously talking about the recruiting class and kind of finishing this up, we've got some comments coming in. I want to get to them. Ed said Vegas has their way to early college football wins over under Auburn 7.5. What side are y'all betting on? I told everybody I'm not doing that, Ed, this year. I'm not getting caught up in the hype. I'm not jinxing anything. Faith, if you want to go over 7.5 or under 7.5 wins, I'll let you take a shot at it. I'm going to reserve my thoughts on that for later down the line. But that's the way too early line for Auburn, 7.5. I can tell you what it better be. I don't know what it will be, but I can tell you what it better be. For Hugh Freeze, I'm going to kick us out a little bit, give us a little bit of depth there. I don't know.
We went through our the whole schedule.
We did. You've already done yours. You said 9 wins.
No, I didn't. I said 8, I thought.
Well, you said 8 going into the Alabama game.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So you had a 3-game losing streak there in the middle that is going to make everybody panic, and then we're going to run off 5 in a row and get to 8 going into the Alabama game. And you said, look, at home, we're going to win that game. So you got us at 9-3, which that's, man, you talk about a great turnaround. But it will be another roller coaster season because you win 3, then you lose 3, according to you, Faith, and then we run off and we finish the rest of the season on a high note. Which, if we do that, if we win those and win out, I think Auburn's a playoff team at that point. Now we're talking a whole different ball of wax.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm really looking to be positive here. I'm really sick of getting let down, and I'm sick
Well, that's
of
been the problem for me. I've been too positive all this, and it's just bit me in the you know what. So I'm just trying
Yeah.
to reserve not having any say at all. So
Yeah, no, I'm looking positive. I'm trying. So if I think positively, maybe it'll just project
you're
out.
trying to ride the positive energy to a good record. So hey, look, I buy it. I'm good with it. I'm
Thank
good with it.
you.
All right, Justin said if we had a kicker, we'd probably win 2 or 3 more games last year alone. I agree with that. I mean, nobody foresaw that happening to Alex McPherson. Towns Magoo was asked to jump in as a true freshman. A lot of pressure, and we missed some kicks that, especially in the Oklahoma game, that probably would have helped us finish that one out. But, again, woulda, coulda, shoulda, we didn't get it done. Kyle said, if Sedarian has a commitment timeline, have a feeling that one might go all the way down to December. I'm not sure about that, Kyle. I think Sedarian's going to take his visits. I wouldn't be surprised, though, with him graduating early in December. I think you could see maybe by summer Sedarian commit somewhere. Now, again, you got to get his signature on the dotted line, and you've got to keep recruiting him. Whoever gets his commitment are going to have to continue recruiting him. He's now the number one, I believe, in both sites, the number one receiver in the country. The 2 sites that we look at, we primarily go with 24/7. Our friends over there, Jason Caldwell, Christian Clemente. I know On 3 just re-ranked him a 5-star. I don't know why he hadn't been a 5-star to begin with. When you look at him, I saw him last night. I was at Benjamin Russell. I was with Malcolm Simmons and Coach Johnson, the new coach at Benjamin Russell, and we were talking about that. And he's just a tremendous athlete that, man, he just blows you away with his physical size and his leaping ability. Last night, he had another unbelievable alley-oop dunk that, I mean, what he does, you have to pinch yourself when you're watching him in high school and think you're not in a top level SEC basketball game, because that's the kind of player he is in basketball too, not just football. He'd be a highly ranked recruit in basketball if that was what he was concentrating on. So I don't know, Kyle. We'll see. Sedarian he's narrowed it down to his top 10. He released that the other day. Obviously, Auburn is in that top 10. That's massive. What if it's 7 and one of those is a win over Georgia, Alabama? I think that's that line right there. I think that's, I just think, though, if it's Alabama, obviously it's the end of the year, and I think you keep him. If it's Georgia, it's earlier in the year and you win 7 games. I think if you finish bad, I think the shine of that Georgia game will be taken off, and I think people will go, it's just another subpar year. And look, we're not the only ones saying this. About everybody that covers Auburn that I've talked to is saying, if he don't get it done on the field this year with the roster he's got now, I mean, people are just tired of next year. Wait until next year. Auburn's revamped their offensive and defensive lines. I think they went out and filled the needs of that in a lot of positions that they needed. The guys they have returning, Faith, like a Keldrick Falk, and some of those key players are just going to be even better this year. I mean, I don't know what you're waiting for at this point. What you're waiting for is a quarterback to step up. That's what you're waiting for.
Yeah, I think also too, I feel like first off, we kind of really have to see what the Georgia and Alabama team, is going to look like after, Alabama didn't have that great of a year this past year.
They didn't finish the way they wanted to, for sure.
Right, right. And so I feel like we kind of have to watch that too. But I mean, going in and being 3-3, I think is still where everyone is going to look at Hugh Freeze, even though it is like you win the first 3 games and then you're on a losing streak or whatever, or if we beat Georgia or something like that.
You
He's
got to win one of those games, in my opinion.
I think he's going to be on the hot seat the whole season. And obviously, as an Auburn fan, you want your coach to, succeed and excel and all that kind of stuff. It's just a matter of, we've been saying this for so long.
Right.
We've been watching this for forever. When's it actually going to happen? Because I'm tired of waiting. I know you're tired of waiting.
Everybody's tired of waiting. I'm going to get to some more of these comments. PJ said, if we had another losing season, how long do you think Freeze will be around at Auburn? Not at all. Not at all. If we have a losing season this year, I think it's over. I mean, I don't think we're talking got to win 8 games this year. And if he has another losing season, that's 5 in a row. And obviously it ain't working out. I mean, because you're recruiting at the highest level. You're recruiting at as high level. I don't know if you saw what I said earlier, Faith, before you got on, but Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, Michigan are all ahead of Auburn in 24/7, puts us at number 7. I mean, what's the outlier? Us. All of those teams are in the playoffs or won a national championship or have competed for a national championship in the last 2 or 3 years. And Auburn ain't even had a winning record. So we're an outlier of recruiting and getting the top players to buy into our program, but the results aren't happening on the field. So eventually, and Auburn's off to a great start in the 26 class, but eventually those guys are going to go, man, look, I love it down there, but I'm not going to go down there and be part of another losing team. So I think maybe now more than ever, especially for this class coming up, which is going to have the chance to be another outstanding class in 2026, those guys are waiting to see if Auburn can win some games this year more than any of these other classes. I think this 25 class is like, okay, he had to clean up a bunch of junk. I can come in, I can help rebuild Auburn back. So they bought in. This 26 class with Cedarian Morgan and some of these other guys that I think want to come to Auburn. I'm just telling everybody, I think Cedarian, knowing Cedarian, he's getting offers from everybody, but I think he would love to just come right down the road where so many from Benjamin Russell have come and been successful. Michael Goggins, Eric Brock, El Toro Freeman, Marquise Gunn. I can keep going down the list. Malcolm Simmons now. I think he would love to continue that pipeline, but he's going to watch and see, what Auburn can do on the field this year.
And I think that's another reason why, we might watch him wait until December, because if he really wants to go to Auburn and, if he wants to see how this season plays out, he doesn't want to commit too early before, we have another losing season maybe, and
Right.
I think that goes back to what Kyle said about him maybe waiting until December.
Right. Well, he could commit, but then he could change if it's not going in the right direction. That's what people also have to realize. Hugh said you can't give a chef 2 potatoes and a carrot and demand a carrot cake. He's kind of using my example, Faith. You can't just pour sugar in your mouth. All these ingredients, you can't just take a big old stick of butter and take a bite out of it. It's not going to taste the same. He said Jackson Arnold didn't have anything to work with but his legs at OU. So he's a believer. And look, that may be the case. And the 5, they had no starting receivers at at Oklahoma that really even played much this year, which is also another embarrassment of how they came into Auburn and won. Let's see. Daniel said if Auburn wants to beat Alabama or Georgia, 2025 is the year to do it. I agree. I mean, look, Georgia with Gunnar Stockton coming in, I'm not overly impressed with him. I know he was a highly ranked recruit, but I mean, all we saw was right there at the end of the season of him. Carson Beck's not going to be there, although Carson Beck didn't have the best year. He would have clearly been the starter coming back if he'd have come back to Georgia. And then you look at Alabama. Is it Ty Simpson or Keelan Russell? I mean, Keelan Russell, no different than, Deuce Knight coming in out of high school. Both early enrollees, both true freshmen. So, you look at a situation there, and Ty Simpson, with all the struggles with Jalen Milroe this year, you would have thought, man, if there would have been a window for him to snag that starting job, he probably would have done it, and he didn't do it. So they've got questions at quarterback. We all have questions at quarterback, really, outside of maybe LSU, which I'm not overly impressed by him either. So I think if Auburn can solve the riddle of the quarterback position, this team is poised with this schedule to have a good season. And you get, like Daniel said, Alabama and Georgia at home. So he said Brian Smith has us at number 5. I don't know where he got it. Well, look, Auburn's only 10 points, total points on 24/7 from being the number 4 class in the country. I think this class is very equitable to any of the ones ahead of us. I think Auburn went out and did what they need to do to find the needs. Maybe, Michigan's ahead of us because they went and got the number 1 quarterback in the country. And I think that is the difference in why we're not ahead of them. But we got 2 really good quarterbacks. And Auburn went and got Deuce Knight, who had been committed to Notre Dame forever. And I thought that was the biggest, flip in the whole country, possibly. So Auburn did what it needed to do. It filled its needs. Now they just got to go, like I said and you said, take all the ingredients and put them together and bake the cake. Quit eating the ingredients by themselves. They don't taste that. They don't taste good by themselves, Faith.
You don't like to just take a big bite of butter?
Yeah, what about a big bite of butter and then just throw you some flour in your mouth? I mean, how good would that taste?
Breakfast.
Is that appetizing? So, but anyway, that's kind of a wrap on the 25 class. I think Auburn did a really good job. I mean, again, 8, 7, 5, somewhere in the middle part of the top 10 is where this class falls, and they're going to build on that next year. I think next year's class could be even better than this year's class if Auburn wins games. I truly believe that. So, Faith, let's shift over and let's talk real quick about some of our partners here. Sensagreen, for air that's cool and clean, call on Sensagreen. They are the carrier experts here in the state, saving you thousands of dollars on a new installation, new unit, and they'll save you money on your power bill when you install one of these new units. It's going to be so much more efficient, so much better for you to do it. So call on Sensagreen, and they'll hook you up there. Scout Program Management, a full construction management firm, full service construction management firm located in Birmingham, Alabama. Take you through the pre-construction phase all the way to the finished product. Call on Scout Program Management. And then today, Faith, drum roll, you and I will be at Bunkers today at noon to film a segment on how great their food is for our On the Road show. So we're excited about being at Bunkers at noon today. And if you're out and about, come by and holler at us. We'd love to see you. And again, if you're not able to make it by at lunch, make plans to go eat dinner there, hang out on the weekends, rent you one of those bays, get your friends together and go show everybody how good your golf game is or how bad it is. But it doesn't matter. Nobody's watching. It's just all for fun, right? So go by Bunkers in Auburn and enjoy some of the best food and bars around town. Daniel said if we go 6-6, Freeze is gone. I think there's no question about that. 6-6, 7-5 is going to be iffy. I think you got to get to 8 wins. And again, not feeling sorry for anybody. You just gotta perform. And he's kind of put himself in this position. He was all in on Peyton Thorne, and Peyton Thorne didn't work out. So now we're kind of back against the wall. Got to get results, and that's just the way it is. I mean, hate to be that way, but it's do or die this year. All right, standings halfway through the SEC season. Faith, Auburn 9-0. They survived the first half of the SEC schedule unscathed. Now here we go. Got 9 more games to go. Going to be tough. How many more games will Auburn win? We said 13 was the magic number. I think it's going to be higher than that now, looking at Alabama and Auburn. Alabama at 8-1. Missouri fell to Tennessee in a close one, by the way, last night. They needed Ziegler and the other guy's name. I don't even want to try to pronounce it. Back, and he led them in scoring. So they needed all of that to get over the hump against Missouri. But Missouri and Florida and A&M are all tied at 6-3 there in third place. Tennessee 6-4, along with Ole Miss. Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Kentucky all 4-5. Georgia 4-6, along with Texas. Arkansas went on the road, got their second win. Here we go. Is Arkansas starting to get something going? That's their second win in a row. Them and Oklahoma are 3-6. LSU's 1-8, and South Carolina's terrible at 0-9. So, but there's Auburn at 9-0, and you got the Florida Gators. By the way, students immediately after the game Tuesday night went right outside and started camping. So this thing is unbelievable. Now the rumor is possibly camping for 2 weeks for the Alabama game. So you could see tents. Now I don't know what the university will do. You could possibly see students camping for 2 weeks.
Do people not have class? I'm confused.
Do
you leave your tent up and leave? Can you do that?
All right, so you can rotate. So you can have 4 people in the tent, and you can rotate out, but only 4 people can be allowed entry per that tent or that pod or whatever you want to call it. So I guess
does someone always have to be in the tent?
Somebody always has to be there. Yes, that's the caveat. So if you're willing to go sleep on the ground for 2 weeks and draw night duty, then so be it. Now, I guess air mattresses, whatever. I mean, you can figure it out. But again, that's how rabid this is. That's how crazy this is. What will Auburn's record be going into that game? Could they possibly be unscathed? Could we possibly be looking at a team that's won 17 SEC games and hosting Alabama at home, trying to finish off the SEC regular season undefeated? Highly unlikely, but possible.
Yeah, I mean, how pissed would you be, though, if you camped out for 2 weeks and then if we lost Alabama?
Yeah, it's part of it. I don't think – if Auburn – I'm going to go out on a limb. If Auburn is 17-0 in SEC play going into that last game against Alabama at home, you might as well just – that'd be like the Auburn-Alabama 1989 first time ever in Auburn football game. There was no chance in hell Alabama was going to come down here and win that game. They had no chance. They knew they had no chance. They were a good football team. They were number 2 in the country when they came in here. Auburn could have been ranked 243rd. There was no way Auburn's football team was going to let Alabama come into Auburn for the first time and win that game. Just wasn't happening. So if that Auburn team's 17-0 and Alabama's coming in here, I think you could go ahead and chalk that up as a win, because I don't even know if you could even imagine an environment. It's going to be crazy whatever the record is. But I mean, if you were to be undefeated in conference play going into that game, you would have already wrapped up the SEC regular season. It would just be a matter of finishing off the season undefeated in SEC play, and it happens to be your arch rival, who happens to have a former player on their team.
Hey, I'm just thinking out loud here.
I mean, you don't think everybody else is thinking that too? Like, but hey, there's so many students that are going to do whatever it takes not to miss that game. So I would not be surprised if you see a 2-week stint where students are camping out. If the university will allow it, we'll see. He said, I guess you could house a homeless person for 2 weeks in a tent. Yeah, if you could, you get them over there and tell them you feed them and you'll take care of them, and they just come hang out in your tent, and you can just go right on to class. And
somebody call Mama to watch the tent while we go to class.
Come on, Mom, I need your help. Jill said the game Saturday's been moved to ESPN too, because I know it, man. I mean, dadgum Lakers, Luka Doncic, and LeBron. So let's move a matchup of number 1 versus number 6 so we can watch the worst trade in basketball history and go watch Luka join the daggum Lakers that
I was so sad.
I'll just refrain from saying any more about that.
I was so sad. I was I am a Mavs fan. And so that was really depressing.
I think, again, I've said it on here. I used to be a massive NBA fan. It used to be one of the best pro leagues in the world, and it's such an unwatchable product now.
Yeah, I can't even watch it.
It just sucks, and the ratings show it. Nobody cares. I mean, it's just not what it used to be, and it's a pansy league. I hate to be that way, but
that's what the NFL is becoming. I've said it.
NFL's on its way too. It's unfortunate. All right, couple more things, Faith, here that we want to go through, and I saw the chances of reaching the Final Four according to ESPN. I'm a little confused. They've got Houston at 48.9%. Now, okay, this has nothing to do with the regular season. This has to do with what they think you're going to do in March, obviously. Why is Houston at the highest at 48.9%, Duke 45%, and Auburn 40.6%? Don't you think it would be the other way around? If Auburn moves on to be the number 1 overall seed and they get it put in the South, you would think percentage-wise Auburn would have the highest chance to get to the Final Four, maybe Duke second in the East, and then possibly Houston. Right now, Houston's not even the number 1 seed by a lot of brackets. They've got Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, and Duke as your number 1 seeds. Now, that doesn't – obviously, number 1 seeds don't just make – all number 1 seeds don't make it to the Final Four. But I would have just thought Auburn would have been the leader there, but it don't really matter really in the scheme of things. But Tennessee's at 23.3%. Now, this is to make the Final Four, everybody. Alabama, 20%, and then kind of drop off after that. But that's your top 5. Houston, Duke, Auburn, Tennessee, and Alabama.
Houston's a good team. I still can't get over the fact that they lost and went up 1. But I'm glad we played them early.
And played them. Basically played them as a home game. It was not at their, not on campus, but it was in Houston. So it was basically a home game for them. And Auburn went over there and won that game earlier in the year.
Yeah, I don't know though how they're up there ahead.
I don't either. That's kind of why I was bringing it up. I don't. But again, it don't really matter. But I would have thought chances of reaching the Final Four, I would have had Auburn and Duke number 1 and 2, and then maybe Houston 3. But I do think all of those, basically, they're all up there within a few percentage points of each other. I think
On
there's
ESPN's 2025 on their odds, they have Auburn and Duke 1 and 2.
But then
So,
they had Duke 1 and 2 and Auburn and Duke 1 and 2, but then on their chances to make the Final Four, they've got them behind Houston. So
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's just one guy or whatever. But all right. So tomorrow we'll talk more about the preview for the Florida game. I mean, big game, 3:00 Saturday. Faith, going to be a lot of fun. Another game here, Neville Arena. I mean, it's going to be one of the more physical teams that Auburn's played. Could possibly be very similar to that Tennessee game, where points are at a premium, and it comes down toward the end, and you got to hang on. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's not one of those rock fight games that everybody talks about. So, but Auburn could be hot and blow them out. I mean, you just don't ever know in Neville Arena. So,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've been on a 2-game hot streak.
two impressive wins for sure. Ole Miss,
yeah.
Ole Miss especially last Saturday was a massive win, and it was because you were there.
Right.
I mean, let's just be honest about it. So,
to Justin saying that I was having to prove
I
myself.
think you're holding a grudge on Justin.
I think so.
Yeah, you're holding a grudge against
Maybe
Justin.
a little bit. Maybe I'll let it go.
He did come back and give you props, though.
He did. Maybe I'll let it go after this game on Saturday.
Yep, just kind of let it ease on out. So
yeah, I had to let it marinate after.
That's right. I mean, you're not even a week away from that, so I mean,
right?
got to give you a week on that at least.
Thank you.
All right, Faith, we'll be heading over to Bunkers at noon today to film that segment. I'm excited about that. Great people, great food.
We're eating over there, right?
Are you kidding? We're doing a lunch segment. We're doing it's our foodie segment. So absolutely, we're going to be eating. So going to be having some great food over at Bunkers. I'm not going to eat anything this morning. I'm saving up, right?
Me too. That's why I wanted to ask.
Absolutely. So don't know what they're going to serve us at Bunkers. We're going to let them make the decision. That's what we do, Faith, when we go to all these restaurants. We let them say, all right, what are you known for? What do you want to throw out here so we can show it all over the state of Alabama? And so we're going to let them make that call. So it's going to be a sampling of some really good stuff, though. I'm excited about it. So come out and check out Bunkers in downtown Auburn on West Glen. Sensor Green for air that's cool and clean. Call on Sensor Green. They are the carrier experts. Scout program management for all your construction project needs through the pre-construction phase all the way to the finished product. Call on Scout. They specialize in educational projects like new schools, renovations, things like that. The Sure Shot, man, we're in the middle of deer season about to end. You've got turkey season on the horizon. You still got quail season going on. You got a lot of stuff going on. Go to Sure Shot. They've got the best selection of rifles, shotguns, handguns. They've got all the camo, all the apparel that you need, all the different types of ammo that you need. Sure Shot in Alexander City on 280. I buy all of my stuff there. Faith, I told everybody yesterday, went quail hunting a couple of days ago. The gun I used was from Sure Shot. All the ammo I used was from Sure Shot. The shirt and the pants I had on were from Sure Shot. So everything that I did on Monday was from Sure Shot. So make sure you go out and see Sure Shot for all your hunting and apparel needs. They will take care of you there. And so we thank everybody for being part of our program. Faith, looking forward to coming over and being with you today. It's going to be a fun day. It's a little bit cloudy here. I don't know what it's like in Auburn.
Yeah, a little bit cloudy.
So we'll brighten things up when we roll over to Bunkers at lunch. So we're looking forward to that. Obviously, Auburn Blitz show will be on at lunch today. Jim and Andy will be on. So make sure you tune that in. I know I'll be tuning it in with you, Faith, while we're at Bunkers. So we'll be watching that as well. And then we'll be back, obviously, tomorrow for the Friday, the TGIF edition of the Auburn Blitz podcast. And glad you made it safely back to the Plains, Faith. And
thank you.
And we're going to have a good day today. And Jeff said, can Faith go to Tuscaloosa? Trying to ride that positive mojo.
Hey, we're trying to talk about hopefully being able to get to some games. So we'll see.
If they start a GoFundMe to get you to Tuscaloosa, will you go?
Yes.
There you go. So Faith will be the trooper for us. Go to Coleman Coliseum, help us pull out a win next Saturday. That's next Saturday, by the way.
I know. I can't believe it.
Well, it is getting here quickly. So, man, could possibly see if Auburn and Alabama hold serve a 1 versus 3. And if Duke were to happen to slip up, which they're not, you possibly could see a 1 versus 2 matchup. How crazy is that? But let's go take care of Florida first.
Yeah, we've got business to do.
And then go to Vanderbilt.
Yep.
So we'll see how that all plays out. But Alabama's got Arkansas coming up, and they're on a 2-game win streak.
Who knows? Anything can happen in this.
Watch John Calipari right now.
Anything can happen in this conference.
Jeff said tickets are $1,200. Imagine that. Yep. Y'all better get that GoFundMe started for Faith to get her a $1,200 ticket.
Please, come on. And I don't want those nosebleeds. Give me down close.
She wants to be right behind the Alabama bench. So
Please.
if you can't get something right dead behind the Alabama bench, she's probably not a taker.
Yeah, let's see how expensive those are, and we can talk.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, everybody have a great and wonderful rest of your Thursday, and be safe out there. And a big War Eagle to you. We will see you tomorrow.
War Eagle.